It's preparing to live stream our meeting. Hi, everybody. I'm not sure what you can see yet, but I'm trying something new tonight. This is Kathy L. Murphy, the Pulpwood Queen. And, oh, ta-da! It looks like it's going to go. I am doing something new. I'm recording for our meeting, our online international Pulpwood Queens and Timber Guys book club meeting, but I'm also learned that I can do a live Facebook stream so we can show everybody as we fall back into reading what a wonderful time we have at book club meeting and how the book club that we run, our international book club, is connecting you to have conversations, real conversations with authors. So can you all see me? It's preparing to live continue to have conversations with authors. So can you all see me?
There's a little bit of a lag, Kathy, but yes, we can see you and we can hear you.
Well, that's okay. Here we go. It's going to be a little lag, but we'll get it going. There's a little bit of a lag, Kathy, but yes, we can see you.
Turn off so you don't hear the Facebook coming back.
It's going to be a little lag.
Turn off so you don't hear the Facebook coming back.
My understanding is you can't have Facebook opened at the same time.
Oh, well, we can't.
You have to close the face. I think, I could be wrong. I've been wrong many times in my life. You have to close the Facebook or you get the weird echo lag thing going on.
I think
I got it.
Does that sound right, Mandy?
Well, we tried it. It didn't work. Let's go back.
Well, I think it's still doing it, but you're just not, you don't have Facebook open, but it's still live on Facebook.
Oh, well, I'm trying to figure out how to get you guys back on my page.
Look for the little Zoom camera, the blue
There we go. There we go. Wow, we just took a road trip. Oh, and it just went away again. Here we go. Okay, this meeting is being live streamed. You're right. Okay, I know what to do now. Hi, everybody. Let's start all over. This is Kathy L. Murphy, the Pulpwood Queen, reporting from my little cabin in the woods called Murphy's Law. And I am so excited, you guys, because we're here tonight with one of our authors, and our author has our book of the month. It's called Bookish Broad: Women Who Wrote Themselves into History. Lauren Marino is here. Wave, Lauren, from New York City. And she was one of our featured authors at our last book club convention. She did a fantabulous PowerPoint presentation. And since then, I've received her book. The illustrator is just fantastic, Lauren. This is a wonderful pairing. Were you able to choose this illustrator?
Yes, I did. I went through a couple of people and I wanted a young person, a young woman who was kind of funky and who would appeal to a younger audience, because I feel like I'm like the old fart sometimes. So she and I had a great collaboration. We still haven't met in person, but we were working so closely where I would send her each essay as it was completed, and then I would send her a bunch of photographs or a painting or a portrait of the author, and then I would send her some ideas for themes. So so with Margaret Mitchell, I really, really wanted Scarlett O'Hara in the green draped dress as the background wallpaper, and she did it for me. So, so each author is framed with the themes or important things going on in their book, right? Zikala Sa, who was an incredible concert violinist and wrote an opera. So we had little violins behind her. I mean, a really fun one, although a sad one. Yes. So Edith Wharton, all of the photographs of her, I mean, first of all, her waist is probably,
12 inches.
It's so narrow. Like you look at the corset, just the time, it's so incredible. But every single picture, she has those two dogs in every portrait. And it's, so I said, you know what? She's obviously obsessed with these dogs. We need to put the dogs behind her. We have, like in Carson McCullers, we did a bleeding piano with a bottle of empty bottle of wine, because she was a piano, that's Carson McCullers was a piano prodigy, and she had rheumatic fever, and she couldn't anyway, so that's what she became a writer, because she couldn't become a pianist because of the rheumatic fever, but she was also a horrible alcoholic. Anyway, yes, Judy Blume, Are You There, Goddess Me Margaret. So we had a lot of fun collaborating. Like I would just sort of give her my idea of what I wanted, and then she would send me sketches, and it was like Christmas morning every time I would get an email with her with a new sketch in there, because it was just so much fun to see them all come to life.
Well, this book is definitely going to have legs, because right now, the big topic and everything, I just watched the whole 4 seasons, or was it 5, of Anne with an E, which takes you from 1897. Oh my gosh, I watched the last show last night, but the corset, her fighting for women's rights, all of this is just coming in so much into play. And if we can just focus on all these wonderful changes and less on all these, things that are making us sad and keeping us at home, I think we can get through this. So this is a great book during the time of COVID and Delta variant and all this stuff. Librarians should have this across the country. I could see this book getting picked up for course adoption. I could go on and on and on about your book, but I want you, first of all, to tell everybody about your background, because I know about your background, right. And because your publisher that you work for is who published my first book. So let's hear a little bit about your background.
Sure. I have been a book editor for 30 years, almost 30 years. And I started out, I moved to New York without a connection or friend in the world, against my parents' wishes, with the sole purpose of becoming a book editor. And I really I wanted it really badly. And back then you had to take a typing test. And I went to the agency and took a typing test, and I was really fast at typing because I'd taken typing in summer school, which we used to do back then. So I got a high score. So anyway, I ended up working for a literary agent who got me really excited in, I had studied the Romantic poets and written my thesis on Lord Byron. So I was like,
oh my.
I know, I was like in this whole other world of poetry. And and I, working for this agent turned me on to really quality nonfiction. And so that's what I ended up beginning with. And then I went from there to HarperCollins, from HarperCollins to Hyperion, which is owned by Disney, from Hyperion to Broadway Books, which was part of, Bantam Doubleday Dell. Then Random House came in and bought Bantam Doubleday Dell. So then Broadway became part of Random House. Then I followed, my boss left and he went to Penguin. So I followed him over to Penguin to start this new imprint called Gotham Books. And then Random House came in and bought us again. And I said, it's just a matter of time now, because I had lived through once. I knew what was about to happen. And sure enough, they shut down the imprint. I mean, I think I was there for 3 years after the merger before they just closed it down. So I was at an age where my children, I was divorced. I'd just finished a horrible divorce. My children were sort of entering middle school. I had always been a writer, but I'd been working so hard my entire adult life. So I said, you know what? My kids need me. I need to just give this a shot. And I'm bitter about the whole book publishing world because it's so different. It had changed so much. This was in 2015 from when I first started. Well, now in 2021, it's even more difficult and different than it was. But my point is that I was a writer for 5 years. And I learned so much not just about the writing process, about myself, but it really, it made me a better book editor. And I realized after 5 years that I had to go back into the business because otherwise I was going to get aged out. And after 5 years, if you're out of any industry for 5 years, you're toast. And when you're a woman over the age of 50, you're double toast. You're like burnt toast, right?
I'm burnt toast.
We're all burnt toast. So I said, I'm not going, I'm going to do this. And I spent 6 months. I delivered Bookish Broads. And like the next day I had this epiphany. I need to go back to the publishing side of things and do that for as long as I can. Now that I've published 3 books under my own name and I had ghostwritten and collaborated with a lot of people, and I just had a different perspective. So I got a job at Hachette Books, and I started there in January 2020. And then 2 months later, I've been working from home ever since because the pandemic hit. So it's been a crazy 18, 19 months, but I really I'm frustrated with so many aspects of book publishing, as I'm sure everyone here is.
Oh, are we all?
But as an author, I'm so frustrated by so many things as an author. And I think to myself, if I did not know what I know from having been in this business for as long as I have, I would, I would hate my publisher. I would hate my editor. I would think the world was against me. But I understand how it works and why it's set up that way. So I have the perspective, but it doesn't make it any easier when you're an author and you have your book coming out and you want the world to read it and find it. And it's so challenging. It's just very challenging. So I guess at this point, I'm in a happy place in my career because I would love to write more books, but I feel like Bookish Broads, I felt was like the book I was meant to write. My Dolly Parton book keeps chugging along and selling.
I love your Dolly Parton book. My daughter loves your Dolly Parton book.
Oh, great. I mean, like Dolly just keeps getting bigger and bigger. I mean, she's 75 or 76 now, and she just more and more things. She just launched a perfume. She just keeps going and going. So to me, she's such a role model. I'm like, good, I got another, I got 25 more years if I follow Dolly's example. So I can write books later, but right now I want to publish them because I missed my colleagues. Then of course, now we've been at home ever since, so I still miss my colleagues. But the best thing about book people, whether they're on the publishing side or the writers, they're just super smart, really interesting, intellectually curious, fun, and they have soul, I don't know how else to say it.
Yes.
They have a soul. And there's so many parts, places in the world where I feel like people don't have a soul. So like in a way, despite my frustrations with book publishing, the people make it worth it to me, and being able to work with writers makes it worth it to me. And I look at myself as an advocate for writers. And now having been one, I think it makes me a lot more sensitive, which editors aren't always sensitive. But I also know why editors aren't sensitive, because the pressure on them on the corporate side is crazy. And it's all about acquiring as opposed to editing, nurturing. It's a very tough business. So
it's show me the money. Show me the money, honey, And that's why when I started this book club, I wanted to help first-time first book authors. And we're really going back to those roots, because there's nobody that is promoting first-time first book. So if you don't come out of the chute and go over the finish line first, you're just, who's next? Take them off the track, So that's why Mandy Haynes, who's sitting right here smiling, and I am Robert Waltney, who co-hosts my book and film club. That's why, and Paul, our web person, we are constantly meeting up, brainstorming, coming up with new ideas. So we've got the Writers Club, which boy, would we love to get you on the Writers Club, because I mean, if anybody could talk about it, Janet, who's here, just agreed to be our November featured author, but it's authors mentoring to our authors, because
Right. Yep.
why reinvent the wheel?
Yep.
You've got the wheel down. You've got the blueprints. You know how it's running. Yep. And so keep that in the back burner. Absolutely. But we're here tonight because we want to talk about your book, because this book it's timely right now too, because in every aspect of the world today, women's rights, women's issues are being brought to the, especially now with Afghanistan, everything that's going on, and everything that we're learning around the world of how women are being kept from being educated. What a great book to inspire young women to go for it. And I am, every author you have in here is like all my favorites. I mean, every single one.
And it's timeless.
Yes.
I mean, it's like,
thank you.
It's what a great piece of history. It's so many stories. And I'm embarrassed to admit, I didn't know. There are a lot of people in there that I've never heard of.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yep. Well,
you should have put yourself in there, because you are a book of trust.
Absolutely. Well, let me just, I want to say that I love the Pulpwood Queens. I've known about you for years, and I have just seen, like, since the day I first called you out of the blue, you've been so amazing and supportive, but I see like the group of women here, what Mandy's been doing. You're such a great community, and it's a great community of writers and people who love books and women who are supporting one another. And that's a tough thing. I mean, I had coffee this afternoon with one of my authors. He's a guy, he's a male, but I had coffee with him. I'd never met him in person, even though his book is out and everything. And he was saying how he's now working at Harvard, and but he came from like rough streets. And this is a book about it's a book about the education system in this country and how so many people get left behind. And I think it's such an important book. And he's doing these incredible speaking engagements to rooms of 5,000 people, but he found that the writing community is not on his side. And I said, you have to understand. He's like, explain to me. He's African-American. He said, explain to me, especially, like, why are Black writers not being supportive of me? And I said, I'm going to give you 2 reasons. And I don't know if I'm right or not, but one, it's kind of like in the 1980s when women were going hard into the workforce. And it was like, there was only room for one at the top. So you're going to get rid of your competition, your direct competition, which is other women. I said, the book publishing industry is changing a lot. So there's a lot more diversity, and there's a lot of initiatives to bring diverse voices from different backgrounds and groups and ethnicities and varying abilities to get them published when they've been shut out or felt that they were shut out. But also, writers are a very competitive group. And I will tell, because if one of them, someone does really well, everyone else is happy for them, but inside they're going, why isn't it me? I've worked so hard too. And so I said, you came up the hard way, Brandon. And some of these guys who are like these Ivy League professors go, why is this guy getting attention? I did it the right way, and he did it the hard way. And he's like, but I did it the hard way. I wish I could do it the easy way. So it's just like, there's always a lot. I said, no matter what business you're in, but I think especially in the creative world, it's so hard to get attention and to find your readers, that when someone starts to find readers, other people can get envious. So that's my long-winded way of saying that I really appreciate this group, because you all show up for one another, and you've shown up for me. And I really I value that a lot. It means a lot. So
he needs to join. He needs to join and be a timber guy.
He needs to join our book club.
And we'll put him up there.
Yeah, we'll lift him up. We have always picked, authors from all countries, different places in the world and everything. The hardest thing that I found is because I started it in a small town in Texas, and because I was a hairdresser. I mean, I was interviewed by a radio station in New York, and the guy said to me, I swear, this was when I first started, he said, "So Kathy, are you chewing gum?" I go, "Excuse me?" And he goes, "I can just picture you now." He was on the radio. "I can picture you now. How high are you back combing that hair?" And I go, "Honey, where do you live?" I go, "Because you don't know this, but I studied with Redken, and I've been to Fifth Avenue in New York." I go, "The world is flat now with the internet. There's no such thing as small town hairdresser." Right. We have the ability to educate ourselves with all the best. I've had some of the biggest beauty professionals come to our girlfriend weekend. And, but those stereotypes were there. A Southern hairdresser, what would she know about reading? Well, what that people, when they read my book, they find out that's how I put myself through college. Right. I didn't want to be a hairdresser. I just saw it as a way of, I wanted to be an artist. Mm-hmm. So I thought, well, cutting hair is like art. So if you just take all those preconceived notions of every stereotype that you've ever thought about, throw them out the window when you come to our book club. Because our book club is about creating this brave new world where everybody's on the same playing field, whether you're a New York Times bestselling author or whether you are a first-time self-published author. And I found that out when we published a book this past year, and it's not done well because of COVID, but it was called The Pulpwood Queen Celebrate 20 Years. Yeah. And Brother Mockingbird, a little publisher, approached me and said, "I want to publish it." And I said, "Okay, I'll let you." It's got almost 70 of our authors in there.
Wow.
The reason why we did it is because during this time when they don't have a book coming out, we decided that we'd start doing anthologies to keep those authors in people's reading. Because, you read a book somebody wrote 6 years on, they don't want to wait 6 years, they move on. So Mandy's working on our next one, which will be out this coming year. Work in Progress is another anthology. You've already got how many pages for our book?
73. And I'm like, I don't care if it's 700 pages, a big fat.
It's going to be the biggest. I can't wait. We just decided that it's going to be the biggest. We're going to do the Guinness Book of World Records on the biggest anthology ever done, because we have to think differently. And I think you understand, you've worked on both sides of the table. And I mean, I've been a bookseller, a book buyer, a bookstore manager, a bookstore owner. I've been a book publisher's rep. I work for a publishing company, though shortly. I've worked everywhere. I'm an author. Right. You have to keep learning. And that one thing is the only thing. Listen, people, the only person you need to compete with is yourself. I mean, we're our biggest critics anyway, wouldn't you say? Yeah. And I just love that you went from What Would Dolly Do to this book, because really people go, those are about as far different. No, they're not.
They're not.
They're about passionate women who wanted to tell their story. And in fact, I'm making one of Dolly's books. Dolly has a new big book of the story of her life. It won't be a book of the month. It's just going to be kind of added to our list. But it's a book on her life through all of her songs.
Dolly Parton, the songteller, right?
I love it. And if you've ever heard her sing the song "The Story," oh, I'm in love with that song. And the Brandi Carlile, who is the artist who did it. But it's like the Wild Wild West, and we're glad you're on our posse ride through the world as we spread the word that reading is the best entertainment in the world, and we should be inspired by everybody everybody matters. You know, I understand that young man's perspective because it's not been fair. Right. And but life isn't fair. I mean,
no, it isn't. It sure isn't.
Because I've had so many things go wrong. But at the same time, I've got to go places I never dreamed. You know, I get to have people like you on. I mean, if somebody told me as a little girl that I'd be having an editor from one of the big New York publishing houses interviewing them, I honestly, I think my head would have exploded because I didn't have any idea what I wanted to be as a child. And really what I want to be is an artist, but reading got me there. Right. And so the stories, tell us some of these stories. I'm dying to hear why you picked who you picked.
Sure. God, I feel like I have so much, everything you say, I have so much to say back, but all right, let me focus on answering your question. Like Dolly Parton, like it's not so far-fetched because Dolly Parton is one of the biggest literacy advocates in the world.
I've been saying
Imagination Library. And you know, one of the things I spent time thinking about during those 5 years while I was writing and out of the corporate world, and I didn't know if I didn't have any desire to go back until, like I said, at the end. And I was thinking, what is really important to me? Right? Like as you get to 50 and you're like, okay, what am I going to do for the rest of my life? What's really, my kids are going to go off to college in a few years. What is the most important thing to me? I've spent my life devoted to books, to reading, to writing, to editing, to publishing, and even teach, you know, I've even done some teaching and it's all about books. So what is the next thing really is literacy, you know, getting books into the hands of as many people as possible, as early as possible. So that's really like, as much as I love Dolly Parton, to me, the Imagination Library is so incredible because she's creating readers from day one. And that's so important. And I think, you know, so then when I decided to write Bookish Broads after that, my publisher, which is Grand Central, actually turned down the proposal for Bookish Broads because they said, we want another celebrity book. And then other publishers said, we have feminist fatigue. I was like, feminist fatigue.
These are celebrities. These are celebrities.
Right. So, but I really wanted to do this. I'm not going to write another, what would somebody else do? Like it has to come from a real place and this was what I wanted to do. And so the way that the idea came to me was that I was, I always get the like Publishers Lunch, Publishers Weekly, even when I wasn't working in the business, I would still read the articles just to keep up on what's going on in the book world. And there was this article about the top 100 books circulated in libraries around the world. And they printed the list and they seemed like they were really proud of this list. And I went through it and 14 of them were by women out of 100. And I said, how is it that in 2019, was it 2019, how is it when we know in the book business, 80% of books are bought by women. We know women are bigger readers than men are. We know, like, why are circulation in libraries, why are all those books by men? And then I started to do like kind of digging. And then I said, I'm just going to Google world's greatest writers just for the fun of it. World's greatest writers. There's like a whole row of photos on Google. Charles Dickens, Proust. I mean, great. I love those guys, right? I studied them in school or I read them. I haven't read all of them, but I read some of them. But I was like, but that's not what I've been reading my whole life. Since I was a little girl, I was reading Anne of Green Gables, The Secret Garden, Judy Blume, of course, Beatrix Potter as a little child, then as I got more sophisticated, Jane Eyre, Gone with the Wind, To Kill a Mockingbird, and on and on and on. And all of the books that are dear to my heart that formed me as a person, as a developing young female. were all books by women. Why? Because they spoke to me. I can relate to them. I could relate. Little bookworm Lauren in Ohio could relate to Jane Eyre, right? And
Right.
you know, when my daughter, who is now 13, when she read Jane Eyre over the summer, to watch her love that book the way I love it and to get the same things out of it, just
connects you. It connects you.
Connects me to her.
At the worst time off ever, 13?
Right. Oh, well, I know. You know, and then, but even like, I remember when she was reading Little Women a couple of years ago, and my mother, we were, it was the pandemic. So we were in my parents' house in New Jersey. So like my aging parents, my 2 children and myself, the 5 of us are living in their house. We're all going to school, working, feeding, eating, you know, whatever. And my mother, like Maggie was reading, my daughter was reading Little Women, and my mother goes into her room and pulls out her copy of Little Women from when she was a little girl. And it just blew my mind. And so like just, so to have the 3 of us, 3 generations of women connected by a book.
One book.
You know, by one book, it's just, that's what you, yeah, it's timeless. And we all got different things out of it. But it meant just as much to my mother and to me, and you know, to see my daughter discover that, especially in today's world where TikTok has taken over, and the, you know, Charlie D'Amelio is every 13-year-old's role model, right? So it's like, you know, I don't know, I just, female writers are what I've always read and what I love. So like Mandy, it's, you know, I set out to kind of redefine the canon and to try to come up with a female canon, because the male canon is out there and it's those are the world's greatest writers, and they're being circulated more in libraries, and they're all on all of the greatest books lists and all of that, and it's always the same women, the same 14 women over and over again that are on all of those lists. And I said there are so many other writers that are being left out. So it was a huge challenge for me to pick these writers, because I started out in my book proposal with a list of who I thought was going to be in there. And then as I started to, first, you know, I had like 75, and my publisher said, there's no way we can do 75. You know, like it's a 4, you know, there's like costs, it's 4 color, they have to print it in China. There's only, you know, so they're like, you have to choose 50. And I'm like, how am I going to pick 50? I have to cut 25. So that's where I came up with the idea of putting them in different themes, right? So I have like the medieval mystics, and I have the children's writers, you know, some of the romantic novelists that came before Jane Austen that influenced her, like Shakespeare's sisters, the women who were writing during Shakespeare's time that no one's ever heard of, except unless you're a scholar. So I grouped them and wrote shorter pieces about those women so that I could squeeze them in without my publisher telling me I couldn't put them in there. And then I did 50 other essays that were just women that I thought did something, you know, it's chronological, because I wanted to show the evolution of female writers and show also the evolution of all of the challenges and obstacles that they had to face, because they were different over different times. You know, in the medieval times, the majority of the population was not literate. The nuns, the church, and the extremely wealthy were the only people who could read or write. So to me, you know, especially after a lifetime of Catholic school, no one ever taught me that the nuns were the ones that were the first female writers in the Western world, and that they would join the convent in order to escape child marriage, relentless, endless pregnancy, childbirth, and child rearing. I mean, you're not really going to find time to write when you have 24 kids back to back and possibly die during one of those births, right? Or complication, you know. So the only way they could escape all that and learn to read and write was to join the convent. And so those nuns that I grew up thinking were like the straight-laced ones were really the rebels, the rebellious, smart ones who said, I got to get out of this situation. Chastity, God told me to be chaste and to join the convent. And then they would go and they would use, divine inspiration as their reason or excuse or way, platform, whatever you want to call it, to express themselves. And so I did it chronologically. I'd cut a lot. What I also found is that I did research, because these women build one on the other. Like when I started studying Virginia Woolf, I learned about Aphra Behn. I didn't know about Aphra Behn, but Virginia Woolf talks about her as a woman, as a sort of rebellious, post-Shakespearean playwright who was like wildly successful in her lifetime, like the only woman playwright in England who was so successful, but she was resented for it. And so when she died, they wrote this scathing obituary calling her all sorts of names. She's immoral, she's a harlot, she's this, she's that, she's a terrible writer. They basically like destroyed her upon her death, so she disappeared for centuries. And then it takes Virginia Woolf at the turn of the 20th century to discover her. Now, I knew about Zora Neale Hurston from the Harlem Renaissance, and I knew that I wanted to include her from the beginning because I love her and she's such a fascinating character. But I did not know that Alice Walker is the one who rediscovered her in the 1970s, and that if it wasn't for Alice Walker, I would not know about Zora Neale Hurston. And so, it's just like, it's like they all build on each other over time. And the more research I did, the more places I would be led, and I would find someone new and I'd say, wait a minute, this is someone, I've never even heard of this person, or I know a little bit about them, but what, if they did something that I thought was groundbreaking, then I would dive in there and I would include them. And so like Zikala Sa was born on, she was born on the Nakota Sioux reservation, and the missionaries came in and took the children to go educate them in the the Western American way, and sort of eliminated all of their Native American upbringing and also their language, because they were speaking their tribal languages, and so they learned English. So Zikala Sa, a couple of other Native American writers had written things, but they had been translated by I don't know what you call, like a white non-native person. So who knew so they were translated, but they didn't write things down themselves. Zikala Sa was the first Native American to write about about her history, her heritage, take all the folklore, mythology, and stories of her culture and to write them herself in English. So I was like, wow, that's a groundbreaking thing to do. And so few people even really know about her. So it just kept evolving and evolving. And, I wrote essays about people that never made it in here, like Anne Perry, who wrote The Street, which was published. And she was like the first African-American writer to sell, that book, The Street, sold 1 million copies. Wow. 1 million copies. And, this is—
Write it down, everybody.
And, you know, so it's like, wow, like, but we don't even know Anne Perry. Like, it's a very small world that knows her. So I don't know who's going to bring her back. Or like, I want to take these writers out of the academic world or out of the feminist studies or out of women's studies and just make them more mainstream and make them accessible. And my hope is in a way that this is a guidebook. It's sort of, on the one hand, it's a guidebook. It's like, okay, you want to learn a little bit about your female writers through history. You can go through here, and by reading about these women, if something resonates with you about who they were as a woman or the things that they were writing about, hopefully, there's suggested reading for each essay. I want readers to go, wow, I never heard of that woman, and she sounds so fascinating. I want to go read her books. And I know today in the Post, I'm not sure who said it, but they said that they gave the book to their niece, and she read about Octavia Butler and immediately started reading all of Octavia Butler's books. Now, Octavia Butler just hit the New York Times bestseller list last year for the first time, 20 years after her death. So it's like sometimes it takes a while for the world to catch up with you when you are a rebel, a revolutionary, an iconoclast, which is what these women were. They were often shut down, like Kate Chopin or I don't know, like she was okay, like you can't write anymore because you're talking about sexuality outside of marriage, you're immoral. That's not what, good women don't do that. So we're going to shut you down. You're not going to get published anymore. We're going to ostracize you from society to prevent you from continuing to write the trash that you're writing. And that's what happened. Right. But there are like, I know at Tulane University, there's a whole department, like a whole group of scholars devoted to her.
Absolutely.
But a lot of women have never even heard of her. So that's, I guess I wanted to just show the chronology of how women writers evolved. I wanted to provide a bit of a guidebook to help people find women that they might want to read, but also, honestly, as a writer, writing this book was selfish because I wanted to study them and read about them to improve myself, to improve my own writing and say, okay, I'm a single mom with, struggling by as a freelance writer and, blah, blah, blah. Well, my life's not that hard, but it's still hard. Like, how do you have time? How do you have a year where you don't have to make any money and take care of your kids alone to write a book? It's just like women still have that obstacle. I don't see the men taking the time, they're not the ones taking care of the kids no matter what they say. It still falls on me.
Right.
Take kids to school every day, make them their lunches, get them enrolled in school, show up at parent-teacher conference, you have to feed them 10 million times a day, buy the groceries, schedule that. You still have to do all those things. Like, how do you have time to write? And you have to have an income. So, really, like, Virginia Woolf saying, a woman must have money and a room of her own in order to write fiction is still true today. A room of your own meaning space, time, space, headspace, physical space, and time where children and husbands or the world is not constantly telling you, like, we need this from you, we need that from you. They're all like going like this, like, how do you shut the world out so that you can actually focus on your writing? But you also have to have enough money, because unless you're getting that huge book advance, which we know is like easier said than done, you got to do something else in order to support yourself while you're writing. And so So like it's still like there's still a lot of obstacles for women. So I as a writer, I want other female writers to read this book and say, you know what? Look at what they had to overcome.
Yeah.
Look at the challenges that they faced. If they could do it, so can I. And the challenges, the challenges were pretty severe. They were severe. And, you know, I mean, up until, I mean, Virginia Woolf didn't even have a college education because women were not supposed to be educated. All of her brothers and stepbrothers got college education, and she came from a wealthy family, but her father would refuse to send her to university. And yet here she is, like, look at what she accomplished without that education. And
isn't that
it's incredible. Like Mary Shelley, same thing. Jane Austen, same thing. It's like, without it, like they learned through reading books and having access to those books was the only way they could educate themselves in order to write the masterpieces. I mean, I'm educated. I've got my college degree. I'm sure not, you know, I haven't written a masterpiece yet. I don't think I'm even capable of it. It's easy to be intimidated by really good writers. But I want to show like it's really, everyone struggles with writing and everyone has their own methodology and their own insecurities. And like I love Maya Angelou's quote about, you know, how they always say that she's a natural born writer. And she says, being a natural born writer is like being a natural born surgeon. It is hard work, right?
It's taken hours and a lifetime of reading.
Right. It takes a lifetime of reading.
Your book too is, I did this in my book. I wrote a chapter, and then at the end of the book, if you like the story, read these stories. And I gave a little synopsis, and you've got further reading on each one of these. This is a wonderful resource book on, you know, other books. And I'm surprised at how many things in here. I know I've read a lot of this, but I go, oh, I don't know about this, you know? And so I'm going to be, you know, getting on online on the bookshop.org and getting some of these things. But what a wonderful service you've done for everybody. And just the amount of research and time that it took to put this together with kids. That's the thing people don't understand. They go, how long did it take you to write your book? And I go, 6 years from start to finish, 6 years. And when I turned it in to Grand Central in June, it didn't get published until January of 2008.
Right. Because it takes because you have to get it edited, copy edited, designed, put in a galleys. And it takes 6 months just to, and what we're finding now, even, I mean, with the pandemic, is that it used to take 5 weeks from the time the book, like from the printing press to in the bookstores, it was a 5 week thing. It's like, because they have to get printed, they have to get bound, they have to get put in boxes, they have to get put on trucks, they have to get driven around the country, they have to be dropped off at all the bookstores. Now it's, because of the pandemic, it is 10 weeks. So it, like, you know, wow. It takes a long time to see your work come to fruition and then to get it out into the world. So you really need to be, you have to be so passionate about writing and trying to find your audience, because there's so many disappointments along the way. And there are disappointments, I think, at every level, right? I mean, even the super successful authors have disappointments. You know, the writer I met with today, he's like, yeah, I was on TV, I was on this, I was on that, I was in the New York Times, and I'm still only selling a couple thousand copies. He's like, what's going on? And I'm like, well,
there's 300,000 books or more coming out.
That's right.
I mean, there's just so much. But now what's happening is it's weeding out the people that aren't passionate. I mean, some people approach writing as a career, and this is how you make money. most writers that I know, the Pulpwood Queen writers, most of them that I know, they would do it if they didn't get a dime.
Right.
They've got a story to tell, and they, you know, and then we just do whatever we can so we can float our dream. Right. And I commend you so much. And you're, you know, I think we had to have been, you would have been my little baby sister, but, you know, I just turned 65, but I feel like I'm just getting started.
No, I could still be your baby sister, believe, you know, and I will, I'd love to be.
Daughter would be better, just granddaughter, but I feel like I'm just getting started, and it took me 43 years, 7 universities to get through college, but I had to get my kids through first, you know. And when I graduated, I was in school with both my daughters and my son-in-law all at the same time. Wow. And yeah, the president of the university took a picture with all this because he couldn't believe it. And we were all paying for it ourselves. Wow. By working jobs. I never bought it on. But that's the way my dad raised me. But what is wonderful about this, and the Pulpwood Queens are going to share this with the world, that this is the book, you know, that everybody needs. What would Dolly do? I do that every day. What would Dolly do if she was put in this situation? Because I'm one of those people that started the Dolly Parton Imagination Library. It's been going over 10 years in my hometown. Right. Over 200 children get a book every month free. Yep. And now I'm seeing my first child that went on board. She's now in high school. Wow. Wow. And she is reading as much now. Her mother keeps me. I have 2 girls that keep me in touch with their when their babies were born, that were on the Dolly Parton thing. And I think this must be what it was like if you're a teacher, to see those seeds that you plant, and people say to me all the time, well, I can't get my son to read. And I go, oh, you need to give him to me. The reason why a boy does not read is you're not giving him anything he's interested in. Right. Yep. If you can find the thing that he's the most passionate about and give him a book on skateboarding, or, you know,
video games,
comic books. Comic books. A lot of parents are like, oh, that's not novels. They're not good. It's reading.
It is reading, and it's storytelling. So yeah.
And you know, and I'll tell you, I share with everybody this one book that will get a boy or girl reading faster than anything in the world. She was a Pulpwood Queen author. She was a photographer, gallery photographer, and she went home from South Carolina to Louisiana to find her old diaries. And she wrote a diary with the lock and key from the time she was 13 till she graduated when she was 18. She started reading them, and she didn't remember half of it, but she took the highlights of those years and printed them verbatim in a book, and it's called Miss American Pie. And I had a whole group of theater kids in my shop one day, all getting crazy colors and stuff. And I go, here, hand me that book. You start reading this page. And they go, oh, Miss Kathy, we don't want to read. I go, just listen to the first page of the story. They were laughing so hard. We read half the book that day, and they begged me to let them take it home with them so they could finish it that night. And they did.
Right.
And, you know, Margaret Sartor, and I don't know if she's written another book. I haven't heard from her in years, but it's a magic book. And I read it with my girls out loud. And people say, well, they're too old to read out loud to. I still like to be read out loud to. Yeah. I mean, you could sit here, Lauren, and read me this book, and I'd just be as happy, happy as a clam, because there's something about an author reading their own words. What was one in there that just stands out? Maybe that just, you know, you got maybe stuck on a little bit too long, or you just went down that rabbit hole and you just couldn't hardly get away from it. Is there one in particular that just really, I know you said you did your thesis on Lord Byron, but was there one author in here that just kind of surprised you?
Oh gosh.
I'm sorry, I put you on the spot.
No. You know.
See, I'm that way with Harper Lee.
Well, not Harper Lee. I knew a lot about, you know, already. because I did a lot. I've read like everything by Truman Capote, and I've read all the biographies of him, and I knew that they were childhood friends. So that kind of led me, like I knew a lot about Harper Lee already. I think Harriet Beecher Stowe, it's more like, what did I not know before that really surprised me? That Elizabeth Gaskell, if it wasn't for Elizabeth Gaskell writing Charlotte Bronte's biography, that none of us would know who Charlotte Bronte is, and none of us would have read Jane Eyre. Like that's something that I've, like there's tons and tons of incredible pieces of information that I learned, but in so many cases with some of them, there was so much to say that I would have like 20 pages written and I would have to get it down to 3. So my greatest challenge was having to cut and cut and cut and tighten. And I'm like, can I change the sentence? Can I combine sentences? But like there was so much information I wanted to squeeze in. And I couldn't. And one of this is like my great heartbreak was that when the publisher sent me the first past pages, which is the whole, it's unbound pages designed, but not printed or bound. And they gave me an Excel spreadsheet. Now I've been in publishing for how many years? And I'd never seen a document like this. It was an Excel spreadsheet with every single essay, like every author and the number of words the essay was and how many words I had to cut to get it to fit on the page the way that they wanted it. And I'm like, oh my gosh, how? So, I spent 3 weeks doing nothing but going through. Talk about like a surgeon, right? I had to cut. Like I remember Toni Morrison, like I had to cut and cut and cut. And it just killed me to have to like leave out so much information about her that was so incredible. And I feel that way about all of these authors. Like I wrote the book long. I wrote the book the way with all the information I wanted. Margaret Atwood, same thing. It's like she's written so many freaking incredible books and she's done so, how do you cut that back and back and back? So it was like, I had to try to say, okay, how do I get to the essence of what this writer is about and what was she doing that was groundbreaking? What were her greatest accomplishments? But do it in a way that's fun and interesting because there's so much fun stuff that I have to leave out. And I didn't want it to just be encyclopedic. That's kind of boring. So,
my mind is spinning right now from everything you're saying. And I'm thinking to myself, how wonderful would it be if some university heard this tonight and said, my God, let's get her next semester to teach a course on these women where you can do more in-depth and help the students pull out the most. It's like poetry. It's like when you write a poem, you have to distill it down to its finest essence. But I think I just watched a series on Netflix called The Chair with
I haven't seen it yet, but I've heard about it. Yeah,
you gotta watch it. But there's a woman so passionate about her work. That's you, Lauren. This would be the best. Matthew McConaughey's down in Austin. His classes are just filled, but he is taking it to where the students are in a way that they're going to understand why it's so important that we know about these people. Oh, I hope it happens. I'm gonna get out. This is.
I'm thinking, could you do like a second version?
Huh?
With all of the things that you had to cut out without that beautiful artwork.
Right. Well, even like the women I had to cut, but as we all know, it's like the only way I can do a second one is to get an advance to do it. and a publisher to do it. And the only way that will happen is if this one sells like hotcakes, right?
Well,
you know, it's like you gotta have a track record.
Make it sell like hotcakes. But Richard Powers, who wrote all these books and has won all these awards. I'm so in love with him right now. He's got a new book coming out. He did, for his book, The Overstory, he did a workbook that comes with it, a paperback book that got more backstory information into it that is the perfect companion book to the big book. So, you know, okay, Grand Central, we want to read this. I hope, you know, I know Abrams did this, but I really think that if we can get the librarians behind this, if we can get the Pulpwood Queens and book clubs across the country and the bloggers and the podcasters, this is important, and it's also entertaining. Yes, Mandy, why?
Okay, I have an idea, but we'll have to talk about it. I'll have to talk about it with you before I say anything. Okay. I just had a great idea.
Okay.
It's all of us brainstorming together on how we can get the story behind the story, and who better than from the author themselves.
Right.
I mean, we can see how passionate you are. You know, people might look at this and go, "Oh, this looks literary," but it's so much more than that. Yeah. So, anyway,
history. It's women's
live on Facebook. Yeah,
I really wanted to inspire female writers. I wanted to inspire them. That's what, like, to me, like, it takes so much courage to put pen to paper. It takes courage to do it. It's such hard work. And then when you put it out in the world, it's terrifying, because you think people are going to think it's not very good. I'm not a good enough writer. What I have to say isn't important. Nobody cares. You know, it's like, it's just, every writer has those insecurities, I think. I guess tell me if any of you don't, but I just feel like it's terrifying to put it out there. And
well, I'll tell you one thing I'm going to do tonight for everybody that's watching on Facebook and who writes to me at thepulpwoodqueen.com. If you purchase this book and show me proof, I'm going to send you a signed book plate, Dream Big, from Lauren Marino to put in your book, so you'll have a signed copy. So I have an idea for Girlfriend Weekend. Mandy, were you thinking about, and I know what you're thinking. I know. And she's just a kiddo too. She's my baby sister. But we will, now let's just open it up a little bit.
I want to say one thing before, because I'll forget. When you were saying how it's a book for women writers, for me too, what I think it is a book for writers to give to their family members that they might not be writers, but for them to see what it means and why we're doing what we're doing, and look at these women and what they went through.
Yeah.
And does that make sense? So even
because it's hard, people who don't write or are, you know, it is a hard thing for people to understand. And I think a lot of people think that writers are just natural born geniuses or something. And they don't understand, like, you know, the work,
all the passion and the passion. You have to write. So this would be a great book for which sounds so funny, but a great book for non-writers.
Yeah. Like I always say, like, I'm an uber geek, and I am an uber geek, you know, and like, who else wants to spend a year of their life reading everything by all of these female writers through I do. Like, and
I do. I signed up for your course. Yeah.
Right. So, you know, and there is, like I said, there's so much more to say about all of them. And there's so many women who didn't make it in here. Sylvia Plath didn't make it in here. You know, the poets, I just had to give up. I was like, I'm going to just do a thing about the poets, like a little section. I was like, how do I even narrow it down? The female poets, like, that's a whole book in and of itself. Undiscovered female writers, like people like Ann Petrie, who wrote The Street, like people that deserve attention but aren't mainstream, or like the women in here these are kind of the usual suspects, plus the ones that were groundbreaking that maybe we don't know about. But there are books about, like, the ones that we don't even know about that we should be discovering. And
well, I can tell you one. Have you ever heard of J. California Cooper?
yes, I've heard.
You have.
I've heard, yes.
California Cooper hails from East Texas. She lived in Berkeley until she passed away, but she was one of the most. She's right there with Maya Angelou. She was Pieces of Mine. I mean, all of her books were, and I was reading these back even before I started the Pulpwood Queens. And I actually got to know her because she was also a big music person, and she had her family home in Marshall. And it was so funny because it had a chain link fence. It was near Wiley College, and it had weeds growing up. And she kept it that way because in California, everybody knew who she was, but she wanted to be on the down low. So I would, when I was coming home from where I worked at the bookstore, I'd deliver her the CDs. And she was fascinating. And her stories were so raw. And J. California Cooper, and she'll never, unless I tell people, and I've made her book club selections,
Right.
There's just so many.
Yeah.
It's really great storyteller.
Like, as Mandy, as we're all saying, is like, I think some people, you're like born compelled to write. Like when you have like I've been keeping journals since I could start writing. I mean, I have hundreds of notebooks filled with God knows what that I'm holding on to. And I always said, I made a deal with my best friend. I said, if anything happens to me, you've got to break into my apartment, go into the nightstand, get all those books and like notebooks and burn them before my children or my parents find them. Like, cause who knows? I mean, I'm afraid to go back and reread some of these.
Well, I'll tell you, you probably laugh your head off because we sure did over Margaret's book. I burned mine because I caught my mom reading them. I burned them all. And I've been too scared to journal. I still write, but I'm very careful because they can turn them against you, And
so, it's right. I mean, that's how I process my feelings, my thoughts. It's how I figure out what I think. It's all, it all happens pen to paper. And, but a lot of that process it's not for anybody else to see.
Or like I write so fast, like if I'm thinking something, I write faster than I talk. And it'll be scraps of paper, a napkin, whatever. That's what I stick into my notebooks. Like I don't hardly ever use, well, I do when they're at my desk, but I've got notebooks that are just full of loose pieces of paper. They make no sense. And half of them, I can't even read my own writing.
Oh I can't read my own writing. I can't. Well, this is fascinating, but seriously, universities, if you're out there, I'm telling you, Lauren should have a class and everybody in the world would sign up. She's a dynamo and we all want to know these stories. And it's such a hot topic. I mean, it really is. It's happening in the art world too. Mm-hmm. Women artists. Do you know that professional women artists weren't even recognized until the early 1970s? African American art was discovered in the late 1800s, but women's art was not fully, because you think about who's doing all the critiques for,
of course,
men, and who's publishing the books,
right,
men.
Yep.
So we'll watch our children and see how they do, but okay.
Changing. It's
Any
changing.
Questions? Anybody want to jump in? Janet, Stephanie, anything you want to ask Lauren while she's here? Because this is pretty fascinating to me.
Well, I'm glad you meant Elizabeth Gaswell because she was very prolific. I don't know. I think PBS did a version of her North and South, which is pretty hot, but the lead is pretty hot. But, I grew up on Louise May Alcott. I've been to her place many times too. And, her journey, just doing, I taught a lot of hands-on history workshops to kids. And I also taught teachers how to do hands-on. And so I did 1 year a class for teachers on Louisa May. And, she started off at the Mary Museum, which was this really fun. It came out in the late 1840s, early 50s. Had puzzles. I always tell teachers, it's like the early Ranger Rick or the other magazines, you know, they had, but to have a woman be writing that. And then of course they discovered, you know, maybe 30 years ago about her Blood and Thunder books that she wrote, you know, were quite exciting, you know. So, but Elizabeth Gaswell is really very interesting. And I never heard of her until recently. Actually, it was watching North and South, you know, it wasn't on Netflix, I think PBS. And I always scroll down to the bottom and say, well, who is this person, you know? Yeah. I was going to say that I don't journal, but my mom kept my original publications, which was Funny Bunny. And so I was inspired in second grade. We just moved from Washington, D.C. to Pittsburgh, and they had just climbed Mount Everest. So my first publication with illustrations was Funny Buddy Climbs Mount Everest. And for some reason, it was in the backyard of his house, but Mom saved all of that.
Oh, that's amazing.
I know. My first historical fiction was Jonathan Edwards, a young pioneer. And somehow the mother got sick, and the next day she had 2 twins. So I was not really, didn't do a lot of fact checking on my historical stuff. But anyway, my mom saved all of it, and I'm so grateful because that's what inspired me. I love to read. I think the Black Stallion series. I loved animal stories, and even though it was written by a guy, the Black Stallion. I still have it on the shelf. I got that for Christmas probably when I was in 3rd grade. And, you know, when the movie came out, it was thrilling because they were so close to, you could tell the person loved the Black Stallion. It's still a beautiful movie when you see the horse and the boy. But anyway, my parents, I'd forgotten, but my parents signed me up for a book club, and I still have the books upstairs. I got a different book every month. Hardcover, and also there was this illustrated series of classics. I also got that, so I always got a box every month, open it up, and there was a book. You know, and some of the stories were contemporary, some of them were, you know, I still have them upstairs. But so being a reader was really important.
Yeah, I mean, I still have in my parents' house. I still have my childhood books, and to open them up and look at them now, it
handwriting,
it's all about who, like, wow, this is me. Like, it brings you back to your younger self. It's just, you know, it's just amazing how much books help form you when you're a big reader.
Right. Well, Little House on the Prairie, you know,
of course,
that was really important.
Oh, yeah.
And really, Farmer Boy, when I talk to teachers, is one of the best illustrations of country life in the mid-19th century. I mean, it's so authentic.
Right.
It's an excellent book. And I always got scared about the teacher that whipped the boys, and they turned around and whipped him. That's in Farm Boy. I said, boy, you can't get any more authentic than that. Right. And my middle son's student teaching now in Oakland, California, teaching physics. He's gone from electrical engineer to wanting to be a teacher. So I kept thinking of that scene with the whip. Boy.
Well, you know, and that's what, you know, the whole thing with Laura Ingalls Wilder is that the real stories, her real life was much harsher than even what's in those books. And you see them like living, you know, in like the grass hut, like the hole in the side of the hill,
the sod houses,
the locusts, and the snow covering the whole house, and they can't leave. I mean, it was worse than all that. You know, her life was a lot harder than even what's in those books. They had to clean it up to get, you know, to make those books, I guess, publishable. But I mean, I still have the boxed set from a child, and they're all like, you know, they look like someone, like they were in the rain for 10 years or something, because they all the spines are broken. Yeah.
You know, she never started writing those until she was in her 50s.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean,
it's funny how, because that was like my first big book to read, you know, when I was a little kid.
I'll be right back.
Because my sister was older, so they were a gift to her. And then, well, I just picked them up, and I was lucky. I learned how to read early because she did. Janet, when you said Little House on the Prairie book, I could smell them. I smelled that book smell.
Yeah, you know, the other thing is I grew up in Pittsburgh, so we had the original Carnegie Library. And I was part of a 5th grade art program. I went down on the bus all by myself every Saturday morning to go down and take art classes. But you know, the library was right there, and I remember the day that I went in and pulled out the Magician's Nephew, the beginning of the Narnia series. So this is late 50s because I'm getting up there, but it was a fairly new book, you know, that came out with those wonderful illustrations, and I was hooked. I read every single one of them, you know, and I reread them again when I had my first son. I reread them again while nursing him.
I'm sharing with you all something very special. When my father died, his younger sister, my Aunt Marty, who's 81, sent me this. It's a shadow box. And it,
oh my gosh.
Wow.
And there's my aunt. This is when she was in high school, my Aunt Marty. But when she was in grade school, they had the principal of our school in Kansas was friends with Laura Ingalls Wilder, Mrs. Peterson. And she talked the kids into becoming pen pals with her. So they wrote letters to Laura Ingalls Wilder, and she wrote one back. And it's to
my goodness.
February 6, gosh, I can't even read that. 1959, 6th grade, Mulberry School. Dear children, thank you so much for the box of candy. It is delicious. A very sweet birthday gift. Love to all of you, your friend, Laura Ingalls Wilder. And my aunt sent this to me, and that's some of my grandmother's lace, and that's the original cover of the book she read when she was, but can you imagine, and when she sent this to me, I just was so, I thought, how could you ever part with that? And she said, because you're such a book person, Kathy. So what we do is when we tell these stories and the story behind the story, like Lauren has done tonight, it's going to make all of us want to share our stories with our family, and maybe everybody will write their story. Lauren, you should write a memoir.
Oh, my life's not that interesting. I just work all the time.
Oh, I have the feeling very interesting. I have the feeling it's very interesting. So, Stephanie, what was the book that you read? She's a voracious reader. Yeah. I mean, she's a writer. She's written all these books about taking Americans to Europe. So,
Lauren, I've enjoyed you so much tonight. It's been so interesting, so much fun, and
thank you.
It's just been a wonderful treat tonight. I think everybody on Facebook is going to be glued to this when it goes out. It's been wonderful.
I think it's live, but I recorded the whole thing, and when we end, I will download it and put it up on the Kathy L. Murphy channel. And I'm praying fervently for dreams that are big for Lauren. And everybody who's watching tonight, if you'll email me at thepulpwoodqueen@gmail.com and you purchase a copy of this from bookshop.org. I even have my own little shop now on Facebook, on my website, thepulpwoodqueen@gmail.com. I'll send you a signed book plate from Lauren. And so what's next, Lauren, before we go? Tell us, I know you're going to have to get out there after it opens up to really promote this book, but are you working on something else now?
Right now, I'm because I just started at Hachette, and all the books that I signed up when I first got there are now coming out. So I'm doing a lot. I'm really focused on that, and I'm going to the Beaufort, to the Pat Conroy Literary.
Oh, Mandy's going to be there. She's going to be speaking.
Good. Oh, Mandy, good. We can meet in person. So I'm going down there on September 22nd, and I'm going to be talking there, and I'm going to be doing the local book club.
That's right.
Group. So that's going to be, I'm really, really looking forward to that. And I find that when I'm away from my children,
when you have a room of your own.
I would have a room of my own.
Oh, and there's some fabulous rooms of your own in Beaufort. You're going to have a ball. But Mandy's she's going to be there virtually.
Yeah, I'm not going to be in there in person.
Okay. Well, I'm looking forward to meeting Jonathan in person, but I always find that when I am down south, I am inspired. Like I always have, a lot of my writing I always do it in New Orleans and South Carolina. There's just something so rich about the cultures and even just the natural world, like just the beauty of the natural world. Because, you know, sitting in your apartment all day in New York, it's just not that inspiring. So I don't know. There's just something about the solitude and the beauty of the South. And I honestly think that there's something in the water in New Orleans that just like.
That's my favorite place to go. And now look what all they've gone through. They got to start out 15-year anniversary of Katrina, and here we go again. But the Pulpwood Queens of Beaufort will be there and are helping. And my Pulpwood Queens of Charleston, Sherry Staunch of Main Street Read, she's just a short ways up. You might even talk to her about doing a book signing. She carries the Pulpwood Queen. Yeah. She has a Pulpwood Queen chapter there. But you're going to be in good company. And Mandy's going to be on with Susan Peterson of Sue's Reading Neighborhood, which is a great blogger here in West Texas. So that is a good place for you to go.
I'm really looking forward to it. Like, to me, it's such a special treat to leave work and everything and to just go focus on hanging out with writers and talking about bookish broads. Like, it's better than a vacation.
I went there and spoke. A girl came up to me and she goes, "How do you feel about cheese straws, cheese biscuits?" And I go, she goes, "Here." And she pushed a 10 of these things at me. I ate them all, man. They were these little cheese things. I don't know what they were, but they're just like delicious.
It melts in your mouth.
I kind of Tabasco in them though too, and then I think she ended up loaning me a tiara. I'm telling you, people are really friendly down there, and it's fun. You're gonna have a blast.
Good. I'm looking.
Yeah. So, anything you want to share that we didn't cover that is important to you?
No, I really just want people to find this book and to find inspiration in it, whether it's inspiration to read the books written by these women or to just inspire them to do their own writing and to feel like they can pursue it. And
I'm ready to get to work on my chapter before the book closes. I've got to get my story into Mandy for work in progress. So that'd be great. You're one of our authors. You could contribute a little story. Maybe
what I can come up with.
You have to take out, because that's what it is. It's like, it could be, like
cakes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh gosh. Oh, I would love to have you in that.
Oh.
All right, it's Labor Day week, and I got 4 days. I can get to work. All right.
Okay. Well, Lauren, thank you so very much. I'm looking forward. I've already read your blog for tomorrow, so you guys are in for a big treat. But she's blogging all week on our daily blog, Breathless Bubbles and Books. Have you gotten your wine yet from the?
I know she emailed me and said it was coming. So.
Oh my God, their wine is winning. Forbes magazine did a big story on them, and they got Winery of the Year. So it's all women. It's the sisters, and they did. And the woman who's the vintner is a woman. They're all women running this winery. It's a perfect match for you.
Well, I need a post if it comes this week. I can do that for one of my posts, but I'll definitely put it on my Instagram either way.
Well, they've created a drink for you.
What?
And the recipe. We have the recipe. It's in the magazine.
It's going to be in the magazine.
I haven't gotten it yet. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. What's it called, Mandy? What's the name of the drink?
Oh, I can't remember.
It's fabulous. It's created especially for you with their wine.
Oh my gosh, what an honor. And
it's really, when you taste the wine, you're going to go, oh, this is cool. We love all the girls, Sharon Cohn and Rebecca Rosenberg and all the sisters.
Yeah.
They're great.
So great. Oh, wow. You know what? I have a book for them. So when I get the wine from her, I'll reach out because I have a book I'm publishing about a female winemaker in Australia that's coming out in October. And I'll send a copy to them because they'll appreciate that. They'll appreciate.
What's the winery? What's the winery like?
She makes, you know what? She makes natural wine, and it's in Adelaide, and she does. The name of her wine is Persephone. But
wow! My son's a winemaker in Walla Walla, Washington.
Oh,
so
wow!
It's very interesting.
Wow.
Yeah,
it's hard work, man.
It's hard work. Grapes are coming in next week. I'm hoping to go see the grandkids like 2 days because they're coming in early in Washington.
Good. Awesome.
What? I love you learn something all the time on here.
It's fun.
I hope everybody enjoyed this special live presentation on Facebook, and you can watch it on my Kathy L. Murphy YouTube channel. It'll be up later tonight, and I'll share it on our pages, and I'll send you a copy, and you can share it with the world, Lauren. Thank you. Was this fun?
I had a great time. I hope everyone else did too.
I had a blast.
I had a blast. So
enjoyed it so much.
Well, I look forward to the next time. And as we say, it's all about the story. So thanks for joining, everybody.
Bye.
Bye. Bye. Bye, everybody.
Bye, everyone.